Hi everyone, welcome back to What's for Dinner, Dad. Recently, my family and I took a vacation to Alaska, and the best meal we had, without question, came from the Schnitzel bomber in Soldotna. Schnitzel is a thinly pounded piece of pork that's breaded and pan-fried, and this place, the Schnitzel bomber, was off the charts. In honor of that, today we're going to make schnitzel here. We're going to also serve it with some roasted fingerling potatoes, some braised cabbage, and a cucumber salad. Schnitzel is also a great thing to serve here in the early fall because that's when the Oktoberfest happens in Germany, and schnitzel is a very traditional German meal. And my wife is also from Germany, so this has a really close connection to our family. Hope you enjoy.
We're going to start with our braised red cabbage. To start off, we're going to dice an onion. So slice it across lengthwise about 2/3 back, and then cut along the ribs. And then you've got dices. Once you finish that, set it aside, then get your carrot, split it in half lengthwise, and then again, and cut about 1/4-inch dices. And now your cabbage. You're going to cut the stem off, and then peel some of the outer layers off until it's a nice vibrant purple color, slice it in half, and then cut the core out. And then shred it in about 1/4-inch strips and set that into a bowl. Then we're going to take a bunch of thyme sprigs and tie them together so it's easy to get them out and you don't have wooden sprigs all over your cabbage when you're done. Melt some butter in a medium sauce pot, about 2 tablespoons worth, and then add in your onions and your carrots. Sweat those for about 5 minutes. Do not let them brown. Add a splash of red wine and about a cup of chicken stock. Stir that together. Then add in your shredded cabbage. Season it generously with salt, mix it all together. Make sure you get good coating of the liquid onto the cabbage and then put in your thyme bouquet. Make sure that's covered inside the cabbage so all the flavors meld into the rest of the dish. And cover that and let it simmer for about 30 minutes until the liquid is dissolved. Now for the potatoes. I've got fingerling potatoes here and I'm going to simply half each of them. Then I'll toss them in some olive oil, some Italian seasoning, and some salt, and then lay them face down on a baking tray that is lined with heavy-duty aluminum foil. I do this to make sure that they get nice and browned while they bake in a 425-degree oven for 30 to 40 minutes. Important that you space them out nicely too so that they don't get too close and they can cook evenly. When they're done, they'll come out looking like this. I flip them over and you see I've got really nice browning. They're beautifully crisp, wonderfully salty. These are excellent. It's a very easy thing to do any time of the week. Now for our cucumber salad. I'll take half a red onion and slice it thinly and then set it in a bowl of water to soak so that it takes off some of the bite. Then I'll peel an English cucumber and just for ease I'll cut it in half and then half it again and cut it into these half circles that are about a 1/2 inch wide. Once my onions have soaked, I'll add them to a larger bowl with my cucumbers and simply drizzle them with some white balsamic vinegar, or you can use white wine vinegar and some extra virgin olive oil, and season them with freshly cracked black pepper and some flaky sea salt, very coarse. Mix that together, stir it around so that all of your liquid and all of the seasoning has covered everything. Then you can set it aside. Now for our cabbage. We've taken it off the oven. We've taken out our thyme, it has done its job, and we're going to add about 1.5 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. You can do this to taste if you like it more or less sour. Then I'll season that again with some of that flaky sea salt, stir that all together, and then I can set that aside. It's going to stay warm while I make my schnitzel. And speaking of schnitzel, it's time to bread. I've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour plus 2 eggs that I'll whisk together, and a 1.5 cups of panko breadcrumbs. Now, in a sealable plastic bag to avoid making a mess, I'll gently pound out my pork chop until it's about 1/4 inch thick. And I'll do the same with my chicken thigh. The chicken thigh won't take quite as long because it's not as dense. Once they've been pounded out, I'll season them generously at this point with salt. This is where you get the nice flavor and well-seasoned meat that you're going to want to have with a breaded preparation like this. Then I'll carefully dredge my pork chop in the flour, and then in the egg wash, and then in the breadcrumbs. And you can see I've coated all sides very well, and I'll set that aside. I'll do the same with my chicken, and making sure to try to use one hand for dry and one hand for wet. Totally covered. Breadcrumbs all across. This will get nice and crispy. When it's time to fry, I'll add a couple of tablespoons of vegetable oil to a cast iron skillet and a couple of tablespoons of rendered chicken fat, which is optional, but really worth the flavor, and then a tablespoon of butter. Once the butter is bubbling, but not brown, I'll carefully lay my pork schnitzel in and let that cook for about 3 minutes on one side over medium-high heat. Then flip it over, repeat on the other side. When it's beautifully brown like this, I'll remove it and set it on a rack to cool and dry. And I'll repeat the steps with my chicken schnitzel. And if you're making more than 2, of course, you'll just continue this as you go, adding more oil or whatever fat you need to your pan as necessary. Again, 3 to 4 minutes aside, flip it over, beautifully browned. About 3 more minutes, remove, and set on the rack.
And there we are. We've got our Oktoberfest dinner. A pork schnitzel, our braised red cabbage, our roasted fingerling potatoes, and our cucumber and red onion salad. This is going to be awesome. Oh my gosh, the crunch that you can hear from the schnitzel. Oh my. This is so crispy. It's so awesome. That rendered chicken fat, gosh, the flavor from that is just, it's so deep and so rich. Let's try one of these potatoes. Again, crispy, nice and salted. The herbs come through. That cabbage is a wonderful sweet and sour flavor. Still some good crunch, and finally, let's get some cucumbers. The brightness of the salad helps to balance out a lot of the richness that's on the table. Here's to Oktoberfest. Make yourself some pork or chicken schnitzel and enjoy.
If you found this episode helpful, saw something useful, or want to try a recipe, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow on social media for updates and to ask questions. I'm Josh, and this is What's for Dinner, Dad?